which would allow the carryover of effective reforms to the next political generation. But I did mention two aspects which I want to repeat that are more to serve as a demonstration of political will, and they're chosen because they're thought to be possible, to be done in 100 days. The first is to get rid of corruption in the Bureau of Customs and the BIR. These are thought to be impossible, but it can be done. Number two, get rid of smoke belchers. The gross smoke belchers in the highways of Manila, Metro Manila, start with Metro Manila. And then from there move to the other regions. I know this from direct experience, time and time again, that, as I said, powerful interests lie behind why some of these violators are not put in jail or reformed. Another area within the 100 days is to stop smuggling. You know, I know this can be done. I've spoken with the military. By the way, the military young officers, the middle officers, are totally disgusted with the politicization of the military. They're waiting for the proper leader who really would respect the role, authentic role of any military in a society. And they're willing to really cooperate and participate in any smuggling activities. I know for the fact that they are frustrated that they have caught some real big-time smugglers, but in the end, were called by Malacanang to back off. This will not happen in my administration. So, there are some of these 100 days more to demonstrate political will and the emergence of a new government. But, as I mentioned, while we have our platform, we want to involve a real participatory process of both civil society and business to create a win-win vision for this country and create a new Philippines.
Second question is, what is your program for reintegrating the overseas Philippine workers returning to the Philippines or wanting to?
Yeah. Most of the reasons why Filipinos go abroad for work is obviously for the lack of economic development in this country. Now, the present administration boasts of it has the strongest economic growth record, maybe the screw in terms of GNP. But the sad thing is that, which Alex and other people from UP know very well, we have the highest Gini coefficient index in this region with 0.46, which means to say that this economic growth is not broad-based, it's not equitable. In fact, during the period of 2003 and 2006, poverty increased by 4 million, while growth was occurring. So what we need in this country is broad-based, equitable growth. So which means also that we will encourage employment-intensive industries where appropriate. We will also encourage sustainable development investors. There are now billions of dollars around the world, and I'm in touch with some of these investors who are looking for explicit sustainable development criteria so that we will go towards a more green form of economic development. And when we have this vibrant economy, there will be less reason for OFWs to go abroad. One of the things completely also here, before I forget, we are going, out of the experience of microfinance, we are saying that we need to move microfinance to the next level, to what I call strategic microfinance, which means to say increasing loan packages, not just the normal 3 to 50,000, but higher packages so that more employment is generated. And to do this, we will mainstream the technologies that are mature, that are found in our state colleges and universities that are languishing. In those universities, we will create an entrepreneurial hub for these technologies to be mainstream so that it creates jobs in the countryside where most of the poor actually reside.
While waiting for the questions, I have one question to ask you.
Okay.
Is there any major step in your first 100 days to empower the local governments who are in the forefront of governance? How do you make them more effective than they are now? How do you make them not dependent on the IRA?
Okay, the first thing that I would do is to remove the presidential prerogative over the IRA, which he has used to consolidate her political power. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, on the second thing is then to make sure that those government officials at the local level do serve the interests of the Filipino people. So therefore, if there are abusive mayors who are not really using the IRA for the sustainable development of their municipality or their cities, they will be called to account for their actions. Third, and here is connected to the Millennium Development Goals, I will attach any other further support, either from ODA or the national government. I will attach a conditionality that I want that municipality or town or city to demonstrate a preferred option for the poor. That they have actually created the infrastructure to make sure that these funds that they're receiving from IRA are not going to bloated, corrupt employees that they have for their machinery that are actually going to the poor. That will be conditionality, especially also the infrastructure development. It will be tied down to actual performance, as to actual initiatives, concrete initiatives that address poverty.
Next question. How will you deal specifically with the peace problem in Mindanao? That includes the JDE, the political dynasties, and the impunity, culture of impunity in the Philippines.
Okay, that's actually one of my top priorities because under the top platform of poverty eradication is the important sub-platform of peace and development. Without peace, there's no development. That's clear. Many of the poor regions of this country are poor because there's no peace. And if you think AMPAT 1 is just a kind of exception, there is a very distinct correlation between poverty, private armies of the ilk of AMPAT 1 in the different regions. No one's talking about Masbate. Masbate is totally controlled as Maguindanao by political dynasty and political armies. So there are common things that will apply as a kind of foundation that it gets differentiated for both the MILF peace agreement with the Muslims, then the NDF, the MPA, CPP, and then of course also for the private armies. And then the fourth one would be the Busayaf. Okay. The first and most important thing is to restructure the budget of this country. Once you solve the corruption problem, you have this flow of resources, and to restructure the flow of resources so that it goes truly to the social services of these poorer provinces and regions of the country. ARM, for example, the reason why you will never solve this to just mere peace agreements is because ARM, by almost any measure, is in the lowest in terms of social services. If our poverty rate is about 32% nationwide, ARM has anywhere from 63 to 70%. Lower number of schools, health centers, lower number of roads, electricity, and so on. This has to be redressed, and this will start immediately, even before any peace negotiation is made, unconditionally, because the poor people of this country deserve a kind of government that they've never had in the past. Governments in the past used to use the poor for their own political purposes. We really have to respect poor people and their dignity and honor them authentically. And this is why we will have to have the services immediately moving. And when these warring parties, especially the MILF and the MPA, NDF, and so on, begin to see a real structural approach to development, and there are no sacred cows. For example, dismantling monopolies, economic monopolies in local areas which produce a lot of poverty, regulatory capture in the electrical industry, and things like this. We straighten this out so when we go to the negotiating table, they will see the authenticity of the new government in addressing